Are we trusting the climb yet? That is my question for you today here, folks, on Between the Eers. I'm Schuyler Callihan. We do one of these shows each and every single day throughout the week. And today, that's going to be our theme, our topic here is, are we going to believe that Neal Brown is actually turning this thing into something special? A 9-win season, you go 8-4, and the regular season, you win the bowl game. I don't care if Carolina had Drake May, if they had Connor Harrell out there, it doesn't matter. And I've stated so many times before on this very program, if you win 9 games, you can take that to a recruit's house. You can take that to a transfer portal recruit, and it will sell. And I'll break it down for you again really quickly. No one's going to look at West Virginia's strength of schedule. They're not going to look at their strength of record. They're not going to look at who they played and who they didn't play and how they got a lighter load because they got the 4 newbies and they didn't have Oklahoma, or they didn't have Texas, they didn't have Kansas State, they didn't have Iowa State, and so on and so forth. When they are being recruited to go to West Virginia, they're going to look at this thing and say, damn, they just won 9 games. They've got their starting quarterback coming back. They got a freshman All-American at running back in Jaheim White. They've got an experienced offensive line coming back. You've got a really dynamic player at tight end in Cole Taylor. You got some intriguing pieces on the defensive end. This is a team that is built to win in 2024. So they're not going to look at that and say, yeah, I'm going to just, I think if they would have done this with a stronger schedule, maybe I would consider playing at West Virginia. That's not how this is going to go down. I can already tell you that there are multiple players that were either in the portal or are in the portal that are very intrigued by what Neal Brown and his staff did this past season. And this goes back to my main question. Is this where we finally start to see the fruits of his labor, and we see this program really trend upward instead of just this little bit of middling? In some years you're underwhelming, disappointing. Is this going to be the year? Is 2024 the year? And arguably you could say 2023 was maybe a part of that because it's a 9-win year. Not very many teams around the country can say they won 9 games, especially in the Power 5. Now the Power 4 in 2024, but you get the point. I don't know if this is going to be the stepping stone, if you will, to getting to the Big 12 championship. I don't know that. I think you can certainly build upon what you did this year. All those pieces you have coming back, the guys they've already added in the portal, the guys that they're going to add through the portal. Player retention is a huge part of this. But it still doesn't necessarily guarantee that West Virginia is going to go from a 9-win team in 23 to, say, a 10-win regular season win team in 24. There's a lot of variables that go into this. Of course, health, retention post-spring ball, all the way up into fall camp. You've got to have player development. You've got to have some of these guys that are coming in either from the portal or from the high school ranks ready to play and make an impact right away. It doesn't have to be starters. It doesn't have to be a guy that comes in day one and he's your starting cornerback. Now, that's probably a bad position to pick because they probably do need a guy to come in and step in and be that guy right away, cornerback. But you don't need a day one starting guy at running back or a day one starting guy at receiver or tight end, offensive line. You get the point. They need those guys to be able to come in and contribute in some form or fashion. But it's also going to depend on the rest of the league as well. Because in order to get to the Big 12 championship, not only do you have to be good, but everything has to kind of fall your way. And I think when we get the schedule, I think that'll kind of help at least give us a better picture as to what this thing could look like. We know the opponents. We don't know when these games are going to be played outside of the non-conference games. So when does the bye week come? Is there a Thursday night game, or are there Thursday night games or Friday night games? Is there back-to-back West Coast trips? Is there a quick turnaround where you're having to go out to say, I don't know, Arizona on a Saturday, and then you come back and play on a Thursday at home? They've not done that in years past, but with this new scheduling format, nobody knows what's going to happen. So here's what I'll say. I'm not fully on board, and I'm not trying to be someone that is just full of skepticism. I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm just trying to give you my actual feelings on this, because I don't want people to kind of get ahead of themselves or put the cart in front of the horse. They need to pump the brakes just a little bit. You can be excited. We have all offseason to be excited. There's going to be freaking 5, 6, 7, 8 months of this stuff where we can just talk nonstop about WVU football and now the great season that they're about to have. We can do that, and we will do that. But Neal Brown, in his 5 years, has had one winning season. One. Technically two, if you count the COVID year. That was 6-4. In a full season, a full 12-game regular season year, this was his first winning season. I'm not ready to just go ahead and anoint him as the next big up and coming coach in college football. I'm not ready to put his name or West Virginia's name in the mix for a Big 12 title. And I'm not saying they can't compete for that. And I'm not saying that that shouldn't be the expectation, because when you take into consideration what you got coming back, plus what you're bringing in, you should be in the mix. Are they a favorite? Are they a top 2, top 3? I don't want to go that far. But he's had one true winning season in 5 years. Or I guess if you just want to throw the COVID year out, 1-4. One winning season in 4 years. So it's very hard for me to get on board thinking that 24 is going to be the year. I'm not saying it can't be, but this was a good stepping stone for Neal to showcase, like, hey, I can win here. I can win here. We just won 9 games. We've got a star quarterback. We've got an All-American freshman running back. We've got some good pieces on defense, like I mentioned earlier. We can do this. We can have success here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that just because he has shown that they can have success, that they're just all of a sudden going to be the Big 12 champions, or they're going to be in a New Year's Six game, or they're going to be playing next year down in Orlando in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. There's no certainty with that. For me, and I've always been this way. So and I just gave the man his flowers yesterday on my Thursday Morning Thoughts article when I said, Neal, take a break, take a breather, brother, because you have absolutely deserved it. After all the challenges that he has been through in his tenure at West Virginia, from the portal to COVID to NIL to all the pressure from the fan base, the losing seasons, the injuries, the change in AD. He doesn't know his job status, and he's coaching his way off the hot seat. I mean, give the man all the credit in the world, and I did yesterday, because he has coached his ass off to get this team to where it is. However, I'm somebody that needs to see it twice in order to believe it's a thing. I don't know that. I mean, could this just be a one-year anomaly? Things could have fell right this year. Maybe we do look back on it And I'm saying this as from a recruiting perspective, that the 9-win season doesn't really matter when you look at the strength of schedule and the opponents and stuff. When you go and talk to that and pitch that to recruits, they don't care. They just see the wins. They just see the losses. They see the trajectory of the program. They see their playing time. That's all they see. They don't do a deep dive on this thing. Okay, they don't do a full anatomy of the West Virginia 2023 schedule. But us in the media and you, the fans, we can look at it differently a year from now. If things don't shake out as good as you would expect, and say they win 7 games next year, they take a step back, a small one, because they won 8 in the regular season. Say they go 7-5 in the regular season next year, lose the bowl game, 7-6. All of a sudden, this 2023 season starts to have a completely different outlook, right? Especially if you lose some games you shouldn't lose, and maybe, or you lose the games that that weren't on the schedule a year ago, like in Arizona, who's a decent football team, and some of the others I don't have off the top of my head right now. But the 23 season will be completely viewed different depending on what happens in 24. And I think the same can be said about Neal Brown, because if they take a step back, then all of a sudden we have the same situation that we had riding into this year. And I'm not saying it's going to be full throttle. Neal Brown's on the hot seat if they go 7-5 or 7-6 in 24, and then he's going to be squarely on the hot seat in 25. I'm not saying that, but I'm going to say from the fan base, that anger, that frustration, that disappointment, that impatience is going to exist just as much as it did heading into this year. Neal has to capitalize on this season. You have a senior quarterback. You have studs all over the place on the offense. You got a veteran offensive line. You better win some damn football games. And he knows it. And I think he feels confident that his team can do it. And he should. He just did it with these guys, and they were pups. They were true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, underclassmen. So there's no reason as to why he shouldn't be comfortable. But if he does take that step back, it's going to bring that curiosity and that wonder as to whether or not he's going to be the guy long term. If he goes, I think even if he wins, if they duplicate what they did this year and they go 8-4, win a bowl game, they're 9-4. You're 18-8 in 2 years. It's West Virginia. Okay, it's not Nebraska where you get, and I know people are going to bring up the Bill Stewart thing, but it's not a place where you're going to get fired for winning 9 games a year. Bill, that whole situation, in my opinion, was an outlier. Okay, West Virginia is not a program that is going to historically fire people for winning 9 games a year. If you win 9 games a year, you're doing pretty good. The thing with going 8-4, 9-4, that starts to ask the question, or bring the question up: is this the peak under Neal in this staff? Is that the best they can do? My opinion on that would be no, because it all largely depends on the quarterback play. Garrett Green was somebody that sat for multiple years, and throughout much of the 2023 season, he completed a little over 50% of his passes. He was not a high completion percentage guy. He's going to have to take that this offseason and obviously really work on hitting those little, passes out into the flat, the slants, and all that other stuff to kind of get that percentage up. You want to live very close to 60%, if not higher. But I think he can definitely win more than 9. I don't think it would be a sign of peaking. I think it was just a sign of peaking with this group, if that's the case. if you take that step back, you win 6 or 7 games, it's not only going to spark concern from the fan base, it's also going to put the thought into the heads of people like me that, well, 23 may have been a benefit of the schedule. Could have been. But again, that's going to depend on the teams that are on West Virginia's schedule next year and how they perform. Is it a loaded league next year, or is it similar to what it was this year? There's so many questions that we won't have really the answer to until this time next year. So there's really not a whole lot of reason to be sitting here wondering about that. But I think the reason you can trust the climb, and again, I'm somebody that I have to see it twice, okay, before I'm fully convinced, or maybe not fully, but very convinced that something is going to work or someone is going to work. But I really do think that you can trust that this staff can keep players, the key players, now that this foundation has been set up with the trust. They're in a much better position. They're only going to get stronger as the more memberships that they bring in. So I think that's only going to get better. The opportunity to build on a 9-win season, if they go in and win 9 games again, that's again something that Neal and this staff can recruit to. We've won 18 games over the last 2 years. Now, a lot of people can say that. So I do think the realness, the humbleness, the down to earthness to Neal Brown is something that will win over a lot of recruits, portal guys, and maybe even coaches that are looking to come and coach here at West Virginia. So I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that this could be the ascent. I do. We're going to dive more into it each and every single week between now and the start of the 2024 season. But you've heard me enough today. I want your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. Is it time to start trusting the climb in Neal Brown? Do you believe this is the turning point for Neal and this program to get the Mountaineers back to their winning ways on a consistent basis where they're contending for a league title year in and year out? Look, Oklahoma and Texas, they're not in the league anymore. They're gone. So someone's going to have that opportunity to step up and fill in their shoes. History says it should be West Virginia. We'll see what happens. Also, by the way, I thought we'd show this bad baby off today. The Duke's Mayo Bowl jar of mayonnaise. This thing will hang in my the backdrop of my new office that'll be coming somewhat soon, hopefully, and we'll have this in there until it gets old, and then we'll wash it out and find something to fill it up with. We're going to keep this bad baby in the background. This was from the game, from the press box. As you know, I decided not to work the game, but I was able to snag one from the press box. So a lot of fun in Charlotte. It was a lot of really cool things to see. All the Mountaineer fans just flooding the city and being up in the alleys, the streets, going to all the different restaurants and bars and seeing all the old gold and blue is a really cool sight to see. So West Virginia finishing the season on a high note, 9-4 with that win in the Duke's Mayo Bowl over North Carolina, 30-10. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, just kidding. No, we're not. It's the end of the week. See, my days are already mixed up with this game being in the middle of the week. We will be back tomorrow with the post-game show of West Virginia and Ohio State. I won't be back here on Between the Years until Monday. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Follow us on X at the same handle, and we'll talk to you then.